David, lots to get to here. I'm not sure where to start, but I thought maybe we could start with this Stephen Harper story. So now weighing in, if you will, to the Mark Carney debate, suggesting that despite Mark Carney's claims that he was, around in 08, 09 and helped kind of steer Canada through the financial crisis, Stephen Harper says, whoa, 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 hang on a sec. He's not exactly, he wasn't exactly the main man, if you will, in that.
Yeah, I kind of am puzzled by the timing of this, because this is kind of what was 10 days, 2 weeks ago that all this came out, before you went away on vacation. So this now shows how deep is Mark Carney's impact on the overall race, how the polls have completely turned upside down. I mean, 6 months ago, Pierre Poilievre was 20 points plus up on the Liberals, and now you see certain polls putting the Carney-led Liberals even ahead, possibly. There are scenarios right now that show a possible Liberal minority or even majority government. Now, obviously, nothing is assured. But also, this is a lot of inside baseball, Aaron. What has not changed, and the polling is very clear about this, and Stephen Harper can talk about Mark Carney's role in '08 as much as he wants, is that Pierre Poilievre's unfavorables are incredibly high right now across the country, and especially in Quebec and Ontario. And this is a major problem. He is simply not likable. And nothing indicates that that's going to change. And again, Stephen Harper can weigh in as much as he wants. But again, how does this change the average Canadians or the average Quebecers' view of who can best handle these very, very difficult times that Canada is currently going through and is about to go through, with the tariffs coming in force tomorrow? I just think that right now the Conservatives are a bit in disarray, and this bring in Stephen Harper like this is a bit clumsy.
Calling him in from the bullpen, this late in the game for no reason doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
It's kind of out of the blue, because this thing came out 2 weeks ago, and now it's like, and it's not like Stephen Harper is so loved by Canadians right now.
Fair enough.
This is not a legendary, beloved former prime minister coming in. This is still a very controversial man in a lot of circles.
So let me move from federal to provincial politics. The SecClick scandal is, continues to go and grow, and we finally got the premier to say, okay, I get it. What do you say? I thought about it over the week, and I gave it a lot of thought, and there will be now, I guess, a public inquiry into this.
This is very, very troubling, because about a week ago, when François Legault was asked by the media in Quebec City why he didn't want to go towards a public inquiry, he said, "We don't need a public inquiry. There's no corruption revelations. There's no allegations. There's no reason to go down that road." And what does he do on Sunday before the 2-week spring break? In apparently what the reporting today was about, that he did this with a very close, very small number of advisors. He did not announce this to the key ministers involved, Geneviève Guilbeault and François Bonnardel. And it raises a lot of questions, because when we're talking about a public inquiry, and we've seen this with the foreign interference one, with obviously we're here in Quebec, the Charbonneau Commission, the Gomery Commission on the sponsorship scandal. You know when these things start, but you don't know when they end. And what's very, very peculiar about this one is that this involves the highest levels of the Quebec government. You're talking about the Premier's office, you're talking about 2 senior cabinet ministers, but you're also talking about the top civil servants. Remember during the SNC-Lavalin scandal, we're talking about the clerk of the Privy Council, who's basically the top civil servant in the federal government. Well, now we're going to look at testimony being heard from two former, and in Quebec we call them general secretaries, secrétaires généraux, who are the top civil servants. So we're going to hear from Yves Ouellette and Dominique Savoy. We're going to hear from deputy ministers how these contracts were handed to these major companies, by whom, when. This whole allegation of the trouble being known just before the 2022 elections, and apparently some people somewhere somehow said, you know what, let's keep this under wraps so it doesn't hurt the current government going into an election campaign. But also the other bigger question is that we are currently doing a complete IT overhaul and modernization of the healthcare system. Are we following the same type of playbook and disaster planning that we've seen for SACLIC, which is relatively nothing compared to the healthcare ministry and the whole system, and what kind of safeguards are in place for this and the rest of government? So this move here by François Legault is showing that there may yet to be more to come, and especially troubling, Geneviève Guilbeault canceling a public appearance today. And why would you do that if there weren't some more revelations to come? And all these contradictions and this, death by 1,000 cuts may continue for a while, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Legault shapes the scope of the mandate to this public inquiry. Are there going to be really knowledgeable and independent experts that can truly go into the fine details of these very technical contracts? Well, who are we going to have? A judge? Are we going to have the type of scope of mandate that's going to allow us to go really in depth? Because François Legault is going to want to maybe, give a very short timeline so not to affect the 2026 election. But at the same time, we may see, depending who's running this inquiry, that we may have to ask deeper questions. But this is, for a former Quebec cabinet minister like myself, Aaron, this is touching like the top echelons of both the public administration and the political side of the Quebec government, and this could go sideways very, very quickly.
So if I had to, you brought up Geneviève Guilbeault, I was going to ask what you thought. Has the last sort of head fallen here with respect to Eric Kerr, or do you think there's more coming?
I mean, right now, we don't have, obviously with the facts that we have, but already with Geneviève Guilbeault, there are signals that she is on very thin ice. Because before the announcement yesterday, Aaron, from François Legault on the creation of this public inquiry. Remember on Friday, I don't know if you noticed that, but Premier Legault commented publicly on the fact that now he felt that he had to go to the bottom of this and that he had to get the answers. And that was interpreted by pretty much every observer as throwing Guilbeault and Bonnardel under the bus.
Okay.
And so and the fact that he announces this yesterday, and the reporting that I saw this morning is that he did not give prior notice to Geneviève Guilbeault and François Bonnardel about this, shows me that first of all, maybe we know something, he knows something that we have yet to find out. But definitely Geneviève Guilbeault canceling a public appearance today. Somebody that is very public on Instagram every day. Her entire schedule is public. She's basically been running to be potentially François Legault's successor for years now. It clearly something is definitely off with Geneviève Guilbeault right now.
So earlier in the day, and I had her on a couple of weeks ago, Soraya Martinez-Ferrada. She, of course, is the Ensemble Montreal candidate who will be running against Valérie Plante. We were talking about it, and I asked the question earlier, David, about this story that says this administration, even though there's an election coming up in November, is already apparently trying to sign contracts to revamp Camellia Ud and close it down to vehicular traffic. Now, and as I said, to be fair, I know these sorts of things happen, right, when administrations change, but typically not when there's been so much negative reaction to this story from the get-go, the petition, the OCPM, the consultation, et cetera. Is this wrong? I heard Alan D'Souza on earlier today. Basically, this handcuffs the next administration. If Ensemble wins the next election and are stuck with these contracts and they want to get out of them, there's a cost to this.
Yeah, there's a cost to this. Just like Valérie Plante, when she came in 2017, she didn't care of being handcuffed with Denis Coderre's Formula E contract, and she broke it, and it cost the city $30 million. The thing is that I just want to comment on your premise, saying, yes, the OCPM, the largest public consultation in public consultation history in Montreal, said clearly, no, keep it open. The fire department said we need to keep it open. The cemetery is taking the city to court because they, by contract, need to have access for cars, obviously. But at the end of the day, when you say it's something that is not popular, I will remind you, when Valérie Plante announced all of this, she started by saying, this is what Montrealers want. And that's code for saying that is what my voters want. Projet Montréal is not interested, quite honestly, Aaron, in what you or opponents of Projet Montréal think. What they are interested in is their dogma, their religion, and their supporters. And their supporters want Camellia Ud closed. This is who they're working for, and they don't care about the rest. And they'll say to everybody, we were elected by these people, we work for these people, period.
By the way, just as before we wrap up, Soraya mentioned, by the way, this morning when she was on with Life, she mentioned your name because he said, you've been acclaimed for Ensemble Montréal. There were other people. She said, no, David Heurtel, one of the names that we thought about. Have you definitely ruled out running for mayor, even as an independent?
I don't know I didn't listen this morning. This is news to me. So what did
she mentioned? Elias had asked about the fact that she's basically been acclaimed, and we thought there'd be other people perhaps. And she said she was hoping there'd be other people as well, but it hasn't materialized. And she mentioned your name specifically, saying you as one of those people thought might be interested in running for mayor. Obviously, it's not going to happen with Ensemble Montréal. Does that mean you would not consider running as an independent?
All I can say right now is there's still a lot of people that I'm hearing across the city that are very interested in looking at a third way because they're not necessarily interested in looking at Projet. We now know that Soraya is going to be representing Ensemble, but right now, again, I'm not a candidate for mayor of Montreal. But I can tell you, Aaron, that there's a lot of people in this city that are interested in looking at a third way. Look, just so you know, an interesting stat I looked up: in the last 40 years, since 1986, in the last 40 years, there have been 8 mayors in the city of Montreal, coming from 6 different political parties, and 4 of those parties don't exist anymore. So it's not like we have necessarily a tradition of 2 parties or 3 parties like in the provincial federal system. And there's still plenty of time left, and I do think that a lot of people right now are very much interested in looking at a third way, and possibly we'll see some candidacies being developed in the next few months.
And would yours be one of them?
Well, right now, again, all I'm saying, right now, I'm not running for mayor. Okay. I can tell you definitely this is not something I'm doing right now.
But tomorrow you might be.
Well, call me tomorrow. I'll see. Okay. But no, right now, I'm not planning on running for mayor today.